There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws.
This is E-Ticket to Yesterday, a series dedicated to exploring the history, evolution, and legacy of the theme parks and attractions that helped define the state of Florida. In 1975, a mechanical shark changed Hollywood forever. Steven Spielberg's Jaws became the world's first true summer blockbuster, terrifying audiences while proving that a single film could become a cultural phenomena. 15 years later, Universal wanted guests to experience that fear for themselves, not by sitting in a movie theater, but by climbing aboard a sightseeing boat and becoming the next victims. The result was one of the most ambitious attractions ever attempted. It opened with Universal Studios Florida in 1990, nearly sank under its own technical problems, was rebuilt almost entirely from scratch, and somehow became one of the most beloved attractions in Universal Orlando history. This is Jaws the Ride. By the late 1980s, Universal wanted more than a working movie studio. They wanted a destination that could compete directly with who else but Walt Disney World. Universal Studios Florida would combine working production facilities with immersive attractions based on some of Universal Pictures' biggest films. Few movies represented Universal better than Jaws. The shark had already become a staple of the Universal Studios Hollywood Studio Tour in California, where guests encountered a mechanical great white emerging from the water. For Orlando, Universal wanted something much larger. Instead of simply driving past the shark, guests would become part of the experience. The attraction's original concept was created by Peter Alexander, who worked closely with Spielberg and MCA president Sidney Sheinberg during the park's development. Alexander later recalled one memorable conversation with Sheinberg. In every shark picture, the shark blows up in the end. So, he designed a shark that exploded. Originally, Alexander envisioned Jaws as only one sequence within a much larger water attraction. But Universal executives believed the film deserved an attraction of its own. That decision would shape one of the most ambitious rides the company had ever attempted. Universal didn't simply recreate scenes from the film. They built an entire town. Guests entered Captain Jake's Amity boat tours, peaceful sightseeing company operating from the fictional island of Amity. The queue itself became part of the experience. Designed to accommodate roughly 1,000 guests, about a 90-minute wait, it wound through fishing docks, weathered buildings, and movie props, creating the feeling of a real coaster community. Visitors passed Chief Brody's jacket, Quint's fishing rod, and even 2 screen-used boats from Jaws: The Revenge, Neptune's Folly, and the Amity Police boat. Televisions throughout the queue played a 52-minute broadcast from the fictional WJWS Channel 13, complete with local news, advertisements, and tourism segments celebrating Amity's recovery from the infamous shark attacks of 1974. Even the commercials promoted Captain Jake's boat tours, making the attraction feel like a functioning business rather than simply the entrance to an attraction. Universal's commitment to world building was remarkable for 1990. Before guests ever stepped foot aboard a boat, they already believed they were visiting Amity Island. On June 7th of 1990, Universal Studios Florida officially opened to the public. Unfortunately, Jaws was not ready. Neither were several other headline attractions, including Confrontation and Earthquake. Although Jaws opened with the park, the attraction almost immediately began experiencing serious technical failures. The ride relied on massive hydraulic shark animatronics, moving boats, synchronized effects, and underwater electronics, all operating outdoors in Florida's unpredictable environment. Simply put, it was too ambitious. Within months, Universal closed the attraction, publicly citing mechanical difficulties. Behind the scenes, however, the problems ran much deeper. Looking back today, it's easy to understand why Jaws struggled. The attraction wasn't simply moving boats through water. It required one giant mechanical shark with perfect precision, hundreds of times, every single day. Show director Adam Bezark later explained just how complicated the task really was. The ride boats were originally controlled by the skippers themselves using throttles. That meant the shark couldn't simply swim to a fixed location. Instead, it had to find, and bite, a moving target. Even beyond the shark attack itself, technical problems continued to pile up. Universal later sued Ride and Show Engineering, alleging that components intended to operate underwater had not been properly waterproofed, leading to repeating failures throughout the attraction. Ride and Show disputed that claim, arguing the ride simply hadn't been given enough time for testing. Whatever the exact cause, the result was undeniable. The original attraction had failed. Industry estimates suggested Universal ultimately spent nearly $70 million between the original construction and the complete redesign that followed. Rather than abandoning the attraction, Universal made it a remarkable decision. They decided to start over from scratch. The company partnered with Totally Fun Company, ITEC Entertainment, Intamin, and Oceaneering International to develop an entirely new ride system while preserving much of the original layout. Many of the attraction's biggest scenes were completely reimagined. The famous sequence where the shark grabbed the tour boat and spun it 180 degrees was removed entirely. In its place came one of the ride's most recognizable moments, the gas dock explosion. Likewise, the original finale, where the skipper fired a grenade into the shark's mouth, recreating the end of Spielberg's film, was replaced. Instead, the rebuilt attraction drew inspiration from Jaws 2. As the shark bit into an electrified underwater cable connected to a damaged power barge, the lagoon erupted in flames. The finale proved far more reliable while still delivering a dramatic conclusion. Before officially reopening, Universal spent 3 months conducting technical rehearsals. More than 500,000 guests experienced the rebuilt attraction before it officially reopened in late 1993. This time, it worked. While guests only saw a giant shark, the engineering behind those sharks was astonishing. The attraction featured multiple hydraulic animatronics capable of swimming through the lagoon at speeds approaching 20 feet per second. According to Universal, the hydraulic thrust generated by the mechanisms was comparable to that produced by a Boeing 727 jet engine. Creating the shark's appearance proved just as difficult. Universal hired Kinetics to develop flexible latex skins that stretched over massive hydraulic steel frames. Each skin was sprayed inside enormous fiberglass molds before being hand-painted. Early testing revealed an unexpected problem. The hydraulic movements rapidly tore the sculpted gills. Rather than redesign the mechanisms, artists simply removed the raised gills altogether and painted them directly onto the skins, a small change that dramatically increased the durability. The shark's teeth were equally impressive. The original molds were reportedly cast from real prehistoric shark teeth, with individual teeth measuring more than 3 inches long. Programming the attraction also became a challenge. Adam Bizark and technical programmer Mark Pogstead spent countless nights alone in the lagoon, traveling through the ride over and over while adjusting boat movements, because the boats couldn't reverse. Changing a simple movement in Scene 1 required riding the entire 6-minute attraction before testing the adjustment again, sometimes hundreds of times. Much of Jaws' realism came from practical effects. The rebuilt boathouse no longer featured the shark crashing through the walls. Instead, it relied on more than 70 individual lighting effects, atmospheric fog, crashing boats, and carefully timed water effects to create suspense. The attraction's fire finale became legendary. To program the sequence, Adam Bizark literally sat in a rowboat while technicians repeatedly ignited the propane effects. The flames kept getting larger and larger until the heat became physically uncomfortable. Only then did they dial them back. The result convinced many guests that they were actually being burned, even though the sequence had been carefully engineered to ensure that everyone remained safe. Following the rebuild, Jaws became one of Universal Studios Florida's defining attractions. For many guests, no visit felt complete without surviving Captain Jake's boat tour. That night, the attraction took on an entirely different atmosphere. Reflections danced across the dark water. Fire illuminated the lagoon, and the shark seemed even more convincing beneath the darkness. In 2005, however, rising fuel costs forced Universal to reduce the attraction to seasonal operation because of the enormous amount of propane required for its fire effects. Guest backlash was immediate. Universal restored year-round operation in 2007, refurbishing the queue, repainting the boats, updating the sharks with fresh paint and blood detailing, and improving numerous effects. Although some fire effects were reduced, the attraction once again became a daily staple of the park. By the early 2010s, Universal Orlando was changing. The wizarding world of Harry Potter had transformed the resort. Expansion was inevitable. Unfortunately, Amity stood in the way. Universal announced that Jaws would permanently close to make room for Diagon Alley. Fans immediately began making pilgrimages to the attraction. Wait times climbed. Former skippers returned. Guests rode over and over, determined to experience one last voyage through Amity Harbor. On January 2nd, 2012, at exactly 9 p.m., the final boat departed. Veteran skipper Michael Skip guided the attraction's final public tour, carrying the last 48 guests through the lagoon. By sunrise the following morning, construction walls surrounded Amity. Within months, the town had disappeared. In 2014, Diagon Alley officially opened on the former site of Jaws, but Universal quietly preserved pieces of Amity's history. The famous hanging shark photo op was relocated to the park's San Francisco waterfront, where guests still pose for photos today. For many fans, it's a reminder of what once stood there. Jaws also continues operating at Universal Studios Japan, where new generations of guests still board Captain Jake's boat tours. Today, Jaws represents something much larger than a single attraction. It tells the story of creative ambition, of engineering challenges, of learning through failure, and of a company willing to rebuild one of its biggest investments rather than abandon it. Sometimes, the greatest success stories don't begin with perfection. Sometimes, they begin with sinking. And while Captain Jake's boat tours no longer depart from Universal Studios Florida, the legend of Amity, and the mechanical shark that nearly sank an entire theme park before becoming one of its greatest icons, remains a defining chapter in Florida theme park history. Thank you for tuning in to E-Ticket to Yesterday. Until next time, I'm your host, Ashley Brace.